welcome to my probably longest reading vlog ever. Today I will officially be starting the Throne of Glass series. I have already read the ACOTAR series, but I have yet to read the Crescent City series, so I have a lot to get through this year. The reason this is going to be the longest reading vlog that I film is because I'm only reading a book a month for this series. When I read the ACOTAR series, I read it back to back throughout all of January, and it put me in a month to 2 month long reading slump that I really struggled to get out of. And I think the reason for that is because when you're stuck in a world for so many pages and so many reading hours, it is incredibly difficult, at least for me, to leave it and just dive headfirst into a new world with a new magic system, new rules, new laws, whatever. And I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to put myself into a reading slump by reading the Throne of Glass series back to back. And then I also do want to read the Crescent City series, meaning I might have to take a break from this one in order to read that one for the month. So it will definitely be probably around a year of me reading these books. But that being said, I'm very excited to read them. I've heard that they're basically like Game of Thrones, but with fae, and that in itself is interesting enough. I think most people can agree that Game of Thrones is a great show. I enjoyed it very much. I'm watching it for a third time right now, and I'm very excited, so let's get started. So I've just reached page 104, chapter 14, and I'm hooked. I'm so into this so far, and I'm really happy about that because honestly, from about here, I was a little bored. I was a little concerned. I was like, you know what? It's the first book in an 8-book, for me 7-book, but 8-book series. It's gonna be a little boring. It's gonna be a lot of world building. I need to make peace with that. But I cannot, I want to buy the entire series right now, but that would be financially irresponsible and just in general irresponsible. I made that mistake once. I'm not going to do it again, because just because I'm liking this so far does not mean I'm going to finish the series. But I'm really enjoying this. Kind of hate myself for saying that I'm going to wait and just read 1 book a month, but whatever. I can always change my mind. So what we know so far is that she was taken out of jail. She's an assassin, as we all know, and she was in jail as a slave in a mine, mining, and that was her punishment. And she'd been there for about a year, I believe. So Prince Dorian came and took her out of the jail so that she can be his champion, because her father wants basically an assassin by his side. So there was a competition, and she is in that competition, and we've just met some of the opponents, and the first day of the competition has concluded. They're just training right now, but I'm very excited to see what contests there will be, how she fares. Cowell, I believe his name is. He gave her advice to stay in the middle so that she doesn't look like she is a threat, which I think that's really good. I don't know how I feel about Cowell yet. I like her. I like Selena. I don't know how I feel about Cowell yet. I'm very indifferent about him. I'm sure I'll like him eventually. The only problem is, the only things that I knew about this series is there's an Aelin, there's a Manon, there is a Rowan, and I think I know who Aelin ends up with, and there's Dorian. That's all that I knew. And I knew Aelin was golden-ish from the fan art. That is all I knew. Oh, and there's a mosque. There's some kind of mosque. I don't know what it is. I know she says you do not heal. That's it. That is the only things that I know of this series going into it. I thought Aelin was the main character, but this is about Selena. So I was confused. So I Googled, is this book about Selena or Aelin? Who's the main character of the series? If you've read this series, you know why that was a bad choice on my part. I thought it was just an innocent question. I thought maybe like the main character changes throughout the books, and I wanted to know. I got a very massive spoiler about the 2 characters, which I won't say here just in case you have not read this or are planning to read this or are reading it with me, whatever you're doing. But I got a very massive spoiler. So I'm very angry about that. That has not been fun. It has not ruined the series for me, luckily. But again, if you know, you know, and you know why I'm mad. If you don't know and you're reading this or planning on reading it, do not Google that. Don't ask who's Selena. Like, is the book about Selena or Aelin? Don't do it. Don't Google anything. Just be patient. You'll find out eventually. I don't know when I'm finding this out, but I know it's happening. So, yay. I'm really mad. I finished it. It was great. That's the only thing I really have to say. I gave this 4 stars. I had no clue what this was about. I have no clue where the series is gonna go, but I'm having a great time. I wasn't planning on annotating this at all, but as you can see, I have one little one. For those of you who are curious, I won't read it out loud because it's a little bit of a spoiler. It's on page 320 and 321. I don't think, yeah. So that was what I annotated, if you're curious on seeing what caught my heart. That was the part that actually made me cry. Page 320 and 321. I really like Selena. At first, I thought she was a little bit annoying, but she grew on me very quickly. The only thing that I didn't like about this book was the whole like love triangle situation between her, Dorian, and Cowell. And I'm pretty sure I know who she ends up with, and it's neither Dorian nor Cowell. So I'm very confused as to why I had to read a love triangle between the three of them if they're not even her endgame. And then also, in general, I just don't like love triangles. And even though it's not the main plot of the story, it's still something that just I didn't enjoy about the book. It wasn't that bad though. It was definitely one of the least painful love triangles that I've been subjected to. I definitely hope that after this book it's done though. No more. Please. So yes, I have finished that and I am starting Crown of Midnight. I actually just went through and like loosened the spine today because I got this one and it was not that floppy. So I did a pretty decent job, I think. I am excited to start this one. I'm not as excited to start this one as I was this one, but that's nothing to do with the actual books. It's just because I don't know. Let me put my bookmark back in that flew out because I'm overly excited apparently. I'm not really that excited for this one, and that's nothing to do with how that one ended or a problem with the story or anything like that. My main issue is just because I have absolutely no idea what's happening in the story and what's going to happen in this one. I don't really have anything to look forward to, if that makes sense. Because with ACOTAR, I zoomed through it because I knew Rysand his appearance was mostly going to be starting in Mist of Fury. And then, you know, with Wings and Ruin, I know that's when the big war happens and stuff. So I had stuff to look forward to, so it made me want to continue reading the series as quick as possible, which I don't have with this one. But that being said, I am still very excited to be reading it. Also, do you guys like the new covers? Because I've heard a lot of controversy on these covers and I like them more than the old ones. Don't hate me for saying that, but I do. I think they're really pretty. I like the colors. The only thing I don't like is the gradient, but it's minor. I think they're very pretty, so let me know if you like the new covers and I will update you when I have something to say about this guy. So I have an update. I'm about this far into the book. I'm on chapter 22 or page 174. So far this particular book is kind of a miss for me. I'm not nearly enjoying it as much as I did Throne of Glass, and I find this one just a little boring, honestly. I think it's because this one is largely just set up for what's going to happen in the rest of the series, which that's completely understandable. And I have heard that is how this book is. It's just set up and plot development and everything, so I'm not necessarily surprised, but it is a little disappointing. Like I said, I'm bored and quite frankly, also, Cal is irritating me. He's really, really irritating me. Like Dorian, I can understand his conflict between not liking his dad and wanting to be a better ruler, but also not wanting to make him mad and make him essentially make his little brother the heir. So I understand his motivations, but Cal is just annoying. I don't understand how he feels okay working for the king and being so incredibly loyal, and I don't know, like his motivations just, not that they don't make sense, but I don't feel that they're valid. And I know he's just annoying me. I'm not really liking Cal this book. I liked him the first book. I don't like him this book. I'm liking Dorian a lot. I'm very interested to see his storyline because something major has happened, but yeah, that's how I'm feeling about this book so far. I'm kind of just wanting to get through this so that I can get to book 3 and kind of just see if it gets better. Because if the whole entire story is going to be like this book, I'm not going to enjoy the series and probably DNF it. So I'm hoping it gets better. I'm assuming it gets better. So we'll see. Guess who finished this morning? It was fine. That has been my review for every book that I've been reading lately, but it was fine. I think I've said this in every single clip so far, but it's been very boring, this book. My issue with it was that it feels entirely like 80% of this book was just plot setup for the rest of the series. If you've read it, you know what I mean, probably, but it was fine. I found it boring, but you know, we know SJM and her lost 100 pages, so that was insane. I actually was going to give this closer to a 2-star. This is a 3-star. Don't know if I mentioned that. It's a 3-star. I was going to give this closer to a 2-star, but then those lost 100 pages happened and I was blown off of my feet, and like, you know what, 3 stars, it's fine. That being said, one, I have heard that this is the most boring book out of the series, and then also I just kind of understood the fact that it is a 7-book series, so the first couple books might be a little boring because it's set up for the remainder of the series. So this didn't put me in a reading slump or make me not want to finish the series at all, because I was just very understanding that this book had to happen in order for the series to make sense, in order for everything else to happen. First of all, Nehemia dies. I was so mad. I didn't cry, but I remembered, like, literally thinking in book 1, she better not die. And so badly, too. Are you kidding me? Oh, I was so mad. And I read that part during my reading challenge, and I just had to, like, take a 5-minute break because I just could not handle what was happening. I was so angry. I was so mad. I'm still so mad. I'll never forgive her, ever, for that. I love Nehemia. And then I know Tower of Dawn is a redemption arc for Cal. I don't know if it's a redemption for what he did in this book. If it is, I don't hate him. I never really liked him. He's always just been like a meh, like middle ground, don't hate him, don't love him, don't like him, don't dislike him kind of character. Like, does he do something worse? And then also Dorian, he was like Cal for me in the first book. Didn't love him, didn't hate him. He was just there, he was fine. I really like him now. I thought he was kind of snooty at first, but I think he's just a very sweet little prince. And I just want to, like, I want him to be okay at the end of this. I love that he has magic. I love that he is probably everything his father despises. And then also, can we talk about the ending of this? I am so happy that we found out Selena is Aelin at the end of this book, because I don't know if you remember, because this was weeks ago for me, but probably 5 minutes ago for you. I was confused because I always saw fan art of Aelin, and then the main character of this is Selena. So I was like, who's the main character of this book? Like, does it change? So I Googled it. Like an idiot, I Googled it 3 chapters into the first book. And I found out that Selena is Aelin, and I was really mad because that was like a giant spoiler and I didn't know. So I was really annoyed, but I'm so happy that we find out at the end of this book, because that means in the grand scheme of things I could have spoiled for myself, it wasn't that big. And honestly, having read this, even though I knew, I feel like I would have figured it out before the reveal anyway. So now that I found it out, I'm not that mad that it's spoiled. I didn't know she was Fae though, so that was fun. Like, I saw her ears, but I thought it was kind of like a Feyre situation where she turns into one. I didn't realize she just is one, so that was exciting too. But yeah, overall, those last 100 pages really did something for me. I'm really happy about it, and I'm very excited for the rest of the series. I think it's going to be great. I mentioned this in other videos, but currently, as of right now, I was reading 4 books. I finished 1 yesterday and 2 this morning. I was reading 4 books, I went down to 1, and I'm starting 3 new ones. So I'm just in a hellscape of novels right now, but I will be starting this in the next 7 days, probably. And look at that flop. Look at this. This is what I wanted for this, but look at that. Look at that. And that's after me loosening the spine. I accidentally creased it. I don't know if you could see. I'm gonna go. I feel very insecure now, but I'll be starting this soon. I'm very excited. I hope it's gonna be good. Wish me luck. I will check in when I'm halfway, probably, or when something interesting happens. So I'm checking in with an update. Yesterday, I looked and I realized I'd only read about 50 pages in 10 days of Heir of Fire, and I realized at this rate I'm never going to finish the series. Crown of Midnight put me in quite a reading slump specifically for this series. I'm perfectly fine reading other books still. It is purely me struggling with this one, and that's fine, but also I want to finish it, so I'm not going to let myself just not. So I have decided on a goal for myself, because I have been reading other books in between. So I decided to set myself a weekly goal of 100 pages. So at the end of this week, today's Wednesday, so by Sunday, I need to reach page 100. By next Sunday, page 200, etc., etc. And then I'm going to do this for every book until either 1, I am in the mood to finish it and just binge it and don't read anything with it, or 2, I just finish it. In terms of Empire and Storms and Tower of Dawn though, I am tandem reading those. So for those, I'm going to do 50 pages each, so it's still 100 pages total, but it's like for both books I need to reach page 50 and then 100 and then 150 and so on and so on. So it's still the same goal, but because it's 2 books, it's half. I'm hoping that eventually I get to a point where I read more than just 100 pages a week, but I am doing this right now just to make sure I stay on task and I finish it. So we will see. We will hope for the best. I know a lot of people have said Heir of Fire is where it starts to get better, so my hopes are still very high. I read a little bit last night when I realized I was on page 50, and I read a little bit this morning, so I'm on page 85-ish now, and it's good, it's interesting. I've been introduced to Rowan and Manon. They're kind of interesting so far, especially Manon. The Cowl and Dorian chapters to me are very boring, so I think that's an issue too. But you know, it is what it is. And yeah, let's just hope this goes well, because I do not want to be reading a 7-book series for 3 years. I officially finished Heir of Fire. I wanted to say Throne of Glass. Heir of Fire, and oh my god, it was so good. It was so good. So long story short, I ended up giving it 4.75 stars. I almost gave it 5 stars, but the first half just was not good enough for me to give it 5 stars. Well, actually, I can't say that. So basically, the thing was, the first half of Heir of Fire I spent trying to get out of SJM reading slump, because Crown of Midnight just really made me want to not read her work. So the entirety of the first half I spent trying to like get out of that like reading slump, I guess you could say, but it was like only particular to SJM. But then the second half started to really pick up. The fantasy started to really become a much larger part of the plot, which was a very large reason for me why it started getting better. More interesting things were happening, more creepy creatures were picking up, so it just was more entertaining. Because for me, a pet peeve is when you pick up a fantasy book but the only thing really fantasy is the world. Like, it's normal people doing normal things, they're just in a fantasy world. Or like, oh, just this one person has magic and that's it, everything else is just normal olden day. Like, I don't like that. I pick up fantasy for wizards, witches, fae, vampires, a new world, a new like court system or political system or whatever. And the first two books just did not feel that magical because nothing fantasy really happened. So that's how I felt about it. But Heir of Fire definitely like started to make up for the lack of that, and it was just very fun, especially starting the second half. And then in this book, we have met Rowan and Manon, and them two combined are giving Rysand a run for his money. Like, truly. I did not think I could like a character more than Rysand. That being said, Feyre was my favorite character. Still kind of is, but she's like number 2 now. But Feyre used to be my favorite, but like I loved Rysand. So I didn't think I would love anyone more than him. And then Rowan and Manon came in and I'm like, okay, I see the appeal. I get it. Rowan was really mean to, I don't know if I should call her Selena or Aelin, but based on how Heir of Fire ended, I'm gonna call her Aelin now. I felt like Rowan was really mean to Aelin at the start, but the thing was that she was equally as mean to him, and they did make up for it at the end, so it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, because I've known that Rowan is like the guy she ends up with. I know they're not together yet technically, but I do know that they end up together. I've seen like quotes of like, where's my wife, or something like that. So I do know that that happens. And when I met him and I saw that one of like the first things he said to her in like the first week of knowing her was like, you'd be better off if you died, I was like, how the hell does he make up for that? I died on page 315 where they were like, oh, like we can work on ourselves together and heal together. Like, oh my god, that was the absolute sweetest thing. I love how their relationship kind of just like switched from them and they're like showing each other they care, but like in their own unique ways. I love that. And then Manon is a baddie. I love her. I absolutely love that she was like, oh, I'm a witch, we're born without hearts, I'm like the devil's spawn, whatever. And then she meets like this decrepit dragon that is just very feisty, and that essentially picked her. Like, the dragon was like, I want you and you're gonna want me, and like her like heart of ice just kind of like melts, but she doesn't realize it. I'm so excited for her story arc. I truly thought she was gonna be a villain up until the Wyvern scene came, and now I'm just so excited to watch her grow too, and I'm hoping her 13 grows with her. I had no idea that there were witches and dragons. The first time I realized there was dragons was when I saw the cover of Heir of Fire, like when my dad bought it for me. So I'm excited. I'm really loving the characters. In terms of the whole like Cowell, Dorian, Aiden thing, I'm a little bored in those parts, mostly with Cowell. I don't dislike Cowell by any means. I know a lot of people hate him. I don't dislike him. I also just don't necessarily really like him. I'm indifferent on him. Dorian, I'm so sad for him with the whole Sorsha thing. And then Aiden, I love. I don't know what happens to him. I didn't even know he was a character until he showed up in the book, which worries me because now I'm like, does he make it? Yeah, but I am starting Queen of Shadows within the next few days, so that is where I'm at. I am so excited to read the rest of the series though. Like, Heir of Fire left me on such a high. I will come back when I either have something interesting happen in Queen of Shadows or once I finish it, and I'll see you then. Hello, I have returned with just a small little update. I don't really know what I said in the clip before this, but I'm maybe 40 to 50% of the way through the book. I haven't picked it up in a little bit, and my update is that I'm going to hold off on reading the series further. The reason that I want to hold off on it is because it is currently the 27th of June and I have until the 7th of August for Kindle Unlimited, and then I have to cancel it. And I was watching a video today where she was reading 7 thrillers in 7 days, and one of those thrillers was Never Lie by Frida McFadden, and that book just piqued my interest, and I went and I checked, and it's on Kindle Unlimited and it's not available at my library. So I'm gonna put Queen of Shadows on hold, and thus the remainder of the series, because, you know, I own the physical copies, like the audiobooks. I'm not in demand to finish them right now, whereas I have just a little over a month to read 2 books that are on Kindle Unlimited. And the second book is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, but that's 600 pages. That is a really, really thick book. And in my experience with these books, I really only pick them up if I either really desperately want to read the physical copy or if I'm just filming little aesthetic reading clips, because they're very, very heavy. And especially if I'm sitting in bed, like they just like hurt my hand and they make my wrist cramp when I hurt because of like how I hold them. So I have The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, and then I have Never Lie by Frida McFadden, both of those. So that is why I will be taking a break. So just wanted to jump in here, going to be a very, very, very quick update and let you know that I have decided to not read the rest of the series. That makes it sound like I'm DNFing it. I'm going to listen to the rest of the series. I've been trying really hard to like read on these books and focus on them and really absorb them, but it's just, they're too long. It's too long of a series. If I keep going like I'm going, I'm probably going to end up putting myself into a reading slump. I've been reading other books in between, but it's just made it a slower process for me. I mean, as you know, it's been months since I started this video. So it is unfortunate, but also just, it's for my own sake. You know, I own all of the books. The library has audiobooks. There's nothing stopping me from rereading it in the future if I want to. So I have switched to exclusively listening to them, and I listen to them on about 1.75 to 2 times speed, and that's really helped me because it's still very interesting and I'm definitely still enjoying the series, but it's lacking. You know, I think maybe a trilogy or a 4-book series is like the max I can do. I don't know. I feel like I've said this before, but because the series is so long, it just feels like I'm wasting books, and there's so much that I want to read, and I'm only reading this because of the entire universe, and I'm like trying to understand everything. So yeah, I am about 62% of the way through Queen of Shadows, and what has happened so far is Aelin saved Adian. Dorian is still locked in his own mind, I guess you could say. Rowan came to Rifthold, and the Sandra killed Erebin. So a lot has happened. It's been fun, and I'm excited to see what's next. At the end of the chapter I just finished a couple of hours ago, they found out that the King of Audrlin is trying to raise, I think, like a king demon. I forget exactly what he's called, but he's trying to raise a king demon, and that's gonna be so bad. So that's exciting. I still really don't have any idea where this series is going, so I don't know. It's been a fun ride. I kind of wish I knew a bit more about it. I don't know, because I don't want the spoilers, but then also with ACOTAR, when it got to boring scenes, it helped me push through, because I'm like, this scene hasn't come yet, so that means it's gonna come soon, you know? So that's where we're at. I will see you probably at the end of Queen of Shadows. So I have officially finished Queen of Shadows, and I'm so excited about it. Not for the way that you think. I'm just so happy to finally be over halfway. Like, I am making it to the end, finally. You know, so I'm very excited about that because Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn is being tandem read, so it feels more like one very, very, very large book rather than two. But Queen of Shadows is finished. I ended up giving it about a 4-star. So far, Heir of Fire has really been the best one, and will be perfectly honest, kind of given up hope that there will be a 5-star for this series. It is good, so please don't get me wrong when I say that. I just don't think that it's for me, and that's okay. It's too long. I used to not read series at all, so even 3 to 4 books, sometimes even just a plain duology, feels like too much for me. I'm still very much getting used to series, so maybe if I gave this time, maybe if I read it later, it would be better, especially when I was used to longer stories, but it's just not for me, at least not right now. But that being said, the ending, no words. That was insane. Like, I finished it and I felt so tense. It was actually mind-boggling, to say the least. And even though we are halfway with the series, magic is finally becoming a thing, so that's very exciting. I'm not going to be blunt. Well, I mean, I am going to be blunt. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I am incredibly angry and irritated over the fact that I had to wait 4 books for magic to become like an integral part of the story. Like I said, I absolutely despise when I pick up fantasy and there is no magic, you know? There is hardly anything magical happening, whether it's creatures, an actual magic system, both, I don't care. But I'm so angry that I picked this up thinking it was gonna be like a high epic fantasy, and magic has only been a part of the book for maybe 300 pages out of everything I've read so far. I am so angry about that. And yes, I know, like, the word keys and Elena appearing in the tomb and like the creatures, but the thing is, the word keys are just symbols, so it's not that insane to me. And then Elena's a ghost, and then like the word hounds and the creatures, like they just look like hellhounds to me in my head. Like they look like demonic dogs, which, don't get me wrong, that's very creepy, that is very unearthly and magical, but it's not enough, you know? Like, oh, there's a hellhound that they killed with a sword, whoop-de-doo, you know? It just doesn't feel fantastic. So that is my one main issue with this series, just as a whole. The characters are great. I love the characters, and I'm mostly pushing through because of my love for the characters. I want them all to be okay. But the actual story and fantasy and everything is just, it's not it for me. So, but that was more of a series update. Sorry, I keep talking about everything except Queen of Shadows. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I just don't feel like it, but everything that happened with Alid, Manon, and Coltane, what was that? Oh my god. That was not on my Throne of Glass bingo card, I'll be honest with you. I didn't like Coltane in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight too, which I'm sure most of us didn't, but I really enjoyed how her character made like a little 1AC. I'm very sad that she died. Her life was very tragic, and I don't think she deserved everything that she went through. Like, she was annoying, but she did not deserve the pain and torture and treatment that she got. So I'm really sad that she died. However, I'm happy that it was on her terms, you know? I'm happy she went, burned the place to the ground, burned all those little demon babies, and went out on her own note, and she saved Manon, the 13, and Alid. I am very happy that her death was so epic, for lack of better words. I'm so happy Alid got saved. That poor girl, she needs a good story arc. If she gets killed off in a sad way, I'm gonna be mad. I might boycott SJM, because Alid has done nothing wrong and has not deserved to be treated the way that she has by her uncle. Let's just be honest. And then lastly, I cannot believe that the King of Adarlan is dead and not even the main villain. Like, what do you mean? That very much feels like a Amarantha King Hybern situation, but I was not expecting it. Don't know how I feel about it. Like, I'm kind of happy for Dorian's sake that the king was like, please just kill me. Get rid of me. I don't want to be like this. He made me be like this. And then Dorian killed him. But also at the same time, kind of like, why'd you have to give him a redemption arc? Like, I guess it's not really a redemption arc, but it kind of is too. And it's just kind of like, you couldn't have just let him be evil. Like him and Vernon's, is it Vernon or Parrington? One of them. I think it's Parrington, actually. But you couldn't have had them be on like the same playing field. Like they were... I do like that the evil dead king who they were scared of awakening is awake and he's in Parrington. If I understood that correctly. I might have completely misunderstood that. But point is, I am excited to see how this gets resolved. It sounds like it's going to be a battle of epic proportions, and I'm very excited to see how it goes. I'm very excited that magic is free. Now, on to tandem reading Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I'm nervous because I don't really want to read Tower of Dawn. Apparently Tower of Dawn, I think, is about Cowell. I don't dislike him by any means. I don't want him to die. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. But I despise reading from his point of view because I also don't enjoy his character that much. Like, he's fine. I like him as a side character. I don't like him as a point of view main character. And if I'm not wrong, Cowell is the main character in all of Tower of Dawn, which I'm sure it needed to happen for some reason, but I'm not excited for his chapters. I am kind of excited to tandem read it though, so that I don't have to like go through the entire book, but I know it's gonna be a struggle, which is why I haven't started tandem reading yet, even though I finished quite a few days ago. But I think I'm just gonna take another like little break, listen to a couple other audiobooks, and then jump in. I need to start another book for another video, so that's where I'm at, but not excited. I guess just wish me luck. I will check in when I have an update or when I'm halfway, or maybe when I'm done, who knows? Maybe I just don't have any thoughts until the end, but we will see. This is tiring. I'm tired, so. Today is a sad day, my friends. I have DNF'd the Throne of Glass series. I know. I contemplated it for a very long time. I even went on Reddit to r/Throne of Glass series, and I asked people, should I? I've gotten this far, but I'm miserable. So basically what happened, because I've definitely been kind of sugarcoating my reviews a little bit, I've been miserable reading this series since Crown of Midnight. And I would just like to say, don't get me wrong, I still loved, you know, the second half of Heir of Fire, and the book's endings I really enjoyed and got me going, but overall, just the reading experience has been miserable. It has felt like I'm reading a homework assignment or a textbook. I haven't been enjoying it. The start of each book is so incredibly slow, and one very large issue that I personally have is that the magic and the actual fantasy elements of the story did not live up to my expectations at all. I thought it would kind of feel like ACOTAR, and I felt like ACOTAR was incredibly magical from nearly page 1. The world itself felt more magical and fantasy and otherworldly, and I felt like I was being transported into it and I could see everything so clearly. Whereas with Throne of Glass, the world didn't feel magical, really, probably because of the ban on magic, but whatever. The world didn't feel magical, couldn't really imagine it that well, was just really struggling. And then the fact that the lack of magic in the actual series is insane. Like, I know ACOTAR, they're not zapping little spells on each other constantly, but there's a lot more magic, especially with Rysand and Feyre's like little mind reading capability stuff. You know, it's just, it felt so much more magical. And there's someone at the door. Okay, they're gone. But yeah, so I don't really enjoy fantasies where the only thing that is fantasy is the world, you know? Kind of like the Bridge Kingdom. That was fine, I enjoyed it, but like the only thing fantasy about the Bridge Kingdom is the world that it's set in. There's no magic, there's nothing special other than the world itself. To me, those books don't even really feel like fantasy books. They feel more just like fiction, you know? So that's kind of a problem that I personally have, and Throne of Glass for the most part really felt that way. Aside from the dragons, really there was nothing magical aside from the second half of Heir of Fire, and then at the end of Queen of Shadows, when if you read it you know what happens. So it just wasn't magical enough for me. I wasn't enjoying it. It felt like homework. So I started to tandem read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I ended up reading like the first 5 chapters of Empire of Storms and then the first chapter of Tower of Dawn, and that's when I decided, you know what, I can't do this. I'm gonna DNF it. I am not having fun anymore. I feel constantly stressed out about the books that I'm reading, and it's just, you know, at the end of the day, this is a hobby. If I don't like it, I don't like it. The other thing too with the story was it felt purely politics, and I don't mind reading about politics. You know, I read The Cruel Prince, which is a highly political fantasy book, but it had the magic. You know, the Fae alone, just in looks and manners, were so incredibly magical that was enough to like satisfy that fantasy urge. The politics were interesting, and although she was spying mostly, there was quite a lot of action that happened, and there was magic too. There was a lot of magic. So it's not the fact that it was political that set me off. And also, you know, A Court of Wings and Ruin, I gave that 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and that book is mostly war. So it's not that I don't like politics in fantasy books at all. It's just that this one was purely politics. There was little to no magic. There was, to me personally, not a lot of like relationship building and character relationship, and I'm not even talking about romance. I'm talking about romance, friendships, everything as a whole. Like, it just felt very shallow, any of the relationships in the book. So that was kind of like another issue that I had with it, and why I've been struggling through it so much. And like I said, there's definitely a high when you finish a book. Sarah J. Maas knows how to end a book well, but out of every book I've only liked the second half, except for Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass is the only one that I truly enjoyed start to finish, and I would reread that one by itself because of how much I liked it. So that is where I'm at. I would like to say though that this might not be a definite end for me with this series. I'm not saying I will pick it up again, but I might, because I would like to finish the series at some point, but I read too much of it in not even too short of a period, because it's taken me months at this point. I need a break. I need to not think about Throne of Glass. I'm not touching Crescent Sissy for a few months. I wanted to finish book 1 and 2 before book 3 came out in January. That's not happening. I don't care. That's fine. Whatever. I don't want to think about it anymore. But like I said, maybe, hopefully, one day I will gather the strength and interest to pick it up again. I do have the whole series and everything, so my hopes are high, and maybe hopefully one day I'll finish it. But for right now, I couldn't. I'm very sad about it. My hopes were really high for the series, but you know what? It happens, and that's okay. Not every book is for everyone, and I will definitely keep you guys updated if I do start it again. I hope you still enjoyed this video at least, and let me know what you thought of Throne of Glass, because it feels like everyone and their mother loves this, so it feels like I'm the only one who like DNF'd it and doesn't like it. So let me know what you think of it, if you like it or if you don't, and why you don't if you don't. If you like me or my videos, I would really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.